see them doing in the draft or even in the tournament. Some fun stuff like that. Some I don't know, early basketball talk for March Madness. It could be pretty fun. So make sure you do like the video if you like the video, and also if you haven't seen the video already, I did my own March Madness bracket. So if you haven't seen that bracket, make sure you go and check that video out. Give it a like. Also doing a giveaway on that video as well, so go ahead and check it out. And yeah, I think that's everything. So let us get started. Alrighty, so we have a handful of players we're going to be talking about in this video. I'm not going to be talking about, all of the lottery picks and selections and players and blah blah blah, because then that would be like 15 different players. I might do maybe 8, 7 players, kind of like the top dogs of the draft, because I'm not really doing like a mock draft video. That's going to come when the NBA draft does come around, which I think is sometime in June, and then I think the draft lottery is sometime in May, so basically like a month and a half-ish away. Things are going to start kicking off pretty fast. I'm actually pretty excited about this year's NBA draft. Should be a lot of fun, probably a lot of moving pieces happening, hopefully some cool draft night trades and whatnot, but we're talking about NCAA basketball here, talking about some of the top players in the country, maybe some player comparisons, how they're doing, how I think they're going to do in the tournament, stuff like that. It should be pretty fun. So obviously the talk of the town in this upcoming NBA draft and even in NCAA March Madness basketball is the big man, projected to be a top 3 pick. I'll say that. I don't want to give away like mock sort of positions, because again, that's not really a mock draft video. He's a top 3 potential player in Chet Holmgren. Yes, Chet Holmgren of the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Very interesting player. He is 71, but definitely not the traditional big man. That's for sure. He's definitely even more of a new age center than we have even seen in previous years. He's averaging so far this year 14 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 blocks per game. Absolutely insane. And again, new age big man shooting 41% on threes. Crazy. He is definitely, almost want to say, a one-of-a-kind type of talent, which is why a lot of people are very high on him. Now, player comparison. There is actually a Bleacher Report on this, which I'm going to be referring to every once in a while, but not so much. Their player comparison, which again, a player comparison is sort of like where they see this player sort of being at maybe their base, not really their true potential, but maybe what they could be equal to somewhat in the NBA. And their player comparison is actually someone who is a rookie this year, in Evan Mobley. If you know college basketball, do you believe Chet Holmgren is somewhat similar to an Evan Mobley? Me personally, I think that's an okay player comparison. I think that's a little weird, because obviously Evan Mobley could even improve and differ in different ways, because he's already a rookie in the NBA, but I think that's actually a pretty decent sort of player comparison. I would say Chet Holmgren actually has better handles than someone like Evan Mobley, who's definitely more of like a stretch 4, stretch 5. Chet Holmgren is like a big man with guard skills, kind of almost like a Kevin Durant, but definitely more of like a center, if that makes any sense. If I could give him a player comparison, I would give him maybe like a Kristaps Porzingis player, but with handles. Like I could see him coming into the NBA already putting up, anywhere from like 18 to the low 20s in the NBA his rookie year, because he does have that sort of guard skill where he can get past a lot of the other bigs, can shoot the ball very efficiently and well. Obviously, going to Gonzaga, having big basketball IQ, is going to be very smart coming into the NBA. A lot of upside to this guy, and again, he is going to be the biggest home run swing you can go after. Is he the safest pick, though? No. Reason because of that, this dude looks like the stick bug from Bug's Life. Like, it's scary sometimes, because he is an actual, he doesn't play scary. Like, he doesn't play scared. He is very, he'll go in there and rebound. He has a lot of hustle and heart, which is amazing, but it's scary seeing him do that kind of stuff, because sometimes when he falls, it looks like it can't be all that great. So obviously, when you're going up against other college guys your own age, against guys 10 years in the NBA who have 70-80 pounds on you, that's where it gets really scary for this guy. So again, he is going to be the biggest home run hit of the draft, but It's not the safest pick, that's for sure. Can he have the biggest upside? Absolutely. But it's all about that risk, and you just gotta knock on wood, cross your fingers, hope you have that luck, because he can't turn out to be an amazing player again, like a Kristaps Porzingis guy, but with like guard handling skills. It's pretty impressive. And obviously Gonzaga, the #1 ranked team in the entire nation, definitely have a lot of good chances of winning the title in any sort of scenario they go through their route to the Final Four. But yeah, I think he's going to, in my opinion, struggle a little bit. I think that he's going to get a lot of attention during the March Madness tournament, and they're just going to be throwing just missiles at this kid to sort of get him to mess up. So it's really going to be a lot on the other guys of Gonzaga for them to see what the other players on the team can do. I think Chet Holmgren is going to struggle a little bit, but I think he's going to get through it. I think he's actually going to do pretty well. I think Gonzaga is obviously going to do pretty well. So I think Chet Holmgren, what a player. Definitely a high upside for sure. Biggest home run in the draft, I think. Next guy I want to talk about, again, sort of a potential top 3, top 4, definitely a top 5 pick. Jayden Ivey. Yes, Jayden Ivey of Purdue. A sophomore player. Definitely high scoring ability there. Very, very, very exciting. Let's see here. He averaged 17 points per game, 5 rebounds, 3 assists on 36% shooting. Only a 6'4" guard. So maybe he can grow in the NBA. He's still only, 19, I think. I think he's 19, 18. So he can even grow, get a little bit bigger, stronger as a 6'4" guard. In today's NBA, that's not too bad. So, yeah, definitely any of those teams with the top picks, which I'll get into later in the video, could look pretty surprising. And a lot of different teams could even maybe play that point off guard type of role. Could be pretty interesting to see that. Now, this is why I do really like to look at Bleacher Report when doing these sort of player comps, because his player comparison is DeJounte Murray or even Ja Morant. Which, no, I do not believe. I've only watched maybe 1 or 2 games of Jayden Ivey. I've watched some highlights of him. He's going to be a very explosive guard, but do not get this mixed up. This guy is not a defensive god already in his NBA career, triple double threat like a DeJounte Murray or, some sort of reincarnation of MVP Derrick Rose like Ja Morant is. He's not that. I think he's going to be a very skillful guard. In my opinion, he will be the player who could maybe score the most his rookie season, may even have the best chance of winning Rookie of the Year just based off of his skill on the offensive end, and even has a scrappy defensiveness in him as well. So if you want a player that will impact your team right now, I think Jayden Ivey might be a very good bet, especially from the guard position. He's easily the best guard in this upcoming draft, so maybe if your favorite team is sort of in that range, I think Jayden Ivey would be an amazing player there. And I also think with Purdue, Jayden Ivey, he could be a player that, if he can control himself, I mean, he might, average 20 plus points per game the entire March Madness run. I could see him even leading this team all the way to, again, a Final Four run, getting past a bunch of other great teams in their path. I think they have that chance, but it all comes down to Jayden Ivey, and if Jayden Ivey has one off game, it's GG for Purdue, and that's where it's scary. If you even double team this guy, and it sort of gets off to a rough start, this team could get upset by probably anyone, which is kind of terrifying. Which is why I don't really trust Purdue, because a lot of their offense does come from Jayden Ivey. They are a good team all the way around, but man, they're really gonna have to count on Jayden Ivey. I don't know if he's gonna be up for that task though, but I'll give him a shot. I think they're gonna play good. That's definitely some sort of things I can talk about for Jayden Ivey. Another random player. Ooh, again, sort of in that top 5, maybe even falling a little bit depending on, again, where teams are picking from. And again, I don't want to go from like this guy's number 1, this guy's projected number 2, this guy's projected number 3, because that's no fun. I'm sort of just mixing it up right now. And this guy's actually having a pretty crazy sort of improvement in his college career. If there could be like a most improved player award for the NCAA, it might go to this guy here in Keegan Murray from Iowa. Keegan Murray is a 6'8" sophomore from Iowa, like I just said, averaging 24 points, 9 rebounds, about an assist and a half, shooting 40% from 3. So again, a very new-aged stretch 4, which is obviously every team sort of is going towards that in today's NBA. His player comparison that they gave him, pretty interesting. They gave him Jeremy Grant or Kyle Kuzma. I don't know if I like those all that stats say. Better shooter, less of a defender. Definitely a stretch 4, could even play some of the 3, could guard probably 1 through 4, maybe some small ball 5, maybe later in his career if he gets up there a little bit more in weight, but he is also a player that is going to have to pretty much carry a hefty load in order for the team to do good in March Madness. I have Iowa going pretty far because I feel like Keegan Murray is a pretty consistent player, knock on wood, throughout his college sophomore season so far, and I think the rest of Iowa can really sort of rally around that. I think they could even make a pretty good run, again, if Keegan Murray gets off to a fairly good start. I think, if anything, on the 3 players I just talked about, I think he's going to maybe struggle the most, because obviously with guard play is obviously a little bit easier to get into a groove, get into a more of an offensive mind, because you're going to have the ball in your hand a lot more. With Keegan Murray, man, this guy could have a dumpster fire of a game and really put Iowa in a pretty tough spot, but I feel like he'll do pretty okay. Keegan Murray, probably going to go somewhere between 5 and 8, somewhere in there, because the other people I still haven't talked about yet are definitely probably have a higher ceiling. I think this might be the best we see of Keegan Murray. I don't think there's much potential there, which kind of hurts his draft stock. Oh, yeah, and talking about upside, this guy might have the best upside of maybe any player in the draft, potentially maybe not as much as Chet Holmgren, but this kid only being, I think, barely going to be 19, maybe even still 18 during the NBA draft. We have Paolo Banchero, and this guy, again, very interesting of a player to think about. His freshman season, I almost said rookie season, his freshman season in the NCAA averaged 17 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 30% shooting from 3. Again, kind of sort of hard to sort of label this guy as a certain thing. I could see him and classify him as some sort of stretch 4 type of player, which wouldn't make a lot of sense, but there's sometimes where he's kind of like a post player, sometimes he plays a little bit more inside. He's kind of all over the place, which again is why he has a lot of upside, because you can sort of mold him in any which way you would need a player to be, which is obviously very important in the NBA draft. Now for his player comparison, again for Breeze Report, they gave him Blake Griffin, which if you've seen Paolo Banchero play, not really much of an athletic freak as Blake Griffin. I would say maybe Blake Griffin in like his early Pistons days when he was like really dominating in Detroit. I could see that again, a stretch 4, really sort of testing his range, can't play you in the post, uses his size a lot. I could see that comparison, but not Clipper Blake Griffin, definitely not. But a really good player comparison I sort of agree with is Julius Randle, and I feel like even with that Julius Randle comparison, that might leave a bad taste in your mouth, but I actually think it's not that bad of a comparison. Again, a post player, mid-range player, but can also stretch the floor a little bit, has some sort of ball control with him. I feel like that's a good start, and I feel like even the downside of Banchero would be a Julius Randle player, which, again, a player who's a double-double machine any given night, can go off for 30 points, can really stretch the floor, even, facilitate a little bit here and there, control the ball. I think that's not that bad of a comparison. I think that's maybe his floor could be a Julius Randle, his ceiling. I mean, again, he's only going to be 18, 19 going into NBA, and already almost averaging 20 points on a Duke team that, every team is gunning for. It's pretty impressive. But, again, with Duke sort of going into March Madness talk, very scary, because it is a team basically with a freshman running the show, basically, and a lot of freshmen, a lot of youth, which is good sometimes in March Madness play, but sometimes it's going to bite in the butt, and I feel like it's going to bite Duke in the butt. They have a potential to even win the entire thing, but in my opinion, the youth on the team, being led by this kid, not really going to be able to get the job done. I see them going out maybe somewhere in like the Elite 8-ish area, but they could even go out earlier than that. They could go further than that. Kind of hard to tell, but I have some faith in this sort of youth Duke team, most because Banchero's talent. Also, sort of a projected number 1 overall option for a team. It sort of depends on, what team falls where and whatnot. Again, a guy with a lot of upside, and maybe besides Jayden Ivey, the most play now ready of anyone in the draft, maybe even more than Keegan Murray, I would say even. It's got to be Jabari Smith Jr. Jabari Smith. That guy looks like he could play in the NBA right now and average a good 18 points, 10 rebounds. Like, he is that talented, that sort of build of a player where he looks like he could compete right now in the NBA, which is pretty important. He averaged so far for Auburn this year as a freshman 6'10", 220, that typical to assist on 43%, shooting from the three. Very, very, very impressive. The player comparison that Bleacher Report gave Jabari Smith, pretty interesting. Jaren Jackson Jr, which is actually not a bad one. Definitely not the defensive end of Jaren. I think the offensive end of Jaren, very sort of comparable, I would say. Defensively, no, I think Jaren definitely has him on that, but he could definitely grow into that role. And then they also gave him Michael Porter Jr., which we're gonna skip over that. I don't think he's Michael Porter Jr. Even though Michael Porter Jr. is a 6'10" small forward, I would really love to see Jabari play that sort of stretch four role. And I don't think he's gonna be that sort of give Jabari Smith the ball, space out, let him see what he can do. I feel like Michael Porter Jr. you can do that. I don't think you can sort of run an offense through Jabari Smith, especially at the level of the NBA. But in college, not bad. Another sort of high, ceiling, his roof, his floor. I think a ceiling for him could even be maybe like a LaMarcus Aldridge with, again, more handle, more range. I think he could be a really great pick and pop player, even, stretch it back all the way from the three, pick and roll, definitely with his athleticism. I think almost like a LaMarcus Aldridge with like a little bit more of an offensive guard game. I think it's sort of like a good player comparison. I don't know. When I watch him play, I see somewhat of like a LaMarcus Aldridge because obviously I haven't watched a lot of Blazer basketball. Let's see. How do I think he's gonna do? I think he's gonna do good. I think if anything, the fall of Auburn is gonna be the rest of the guys. If anything, I feel like Jabari's gonna have a great, maybe even the best run of all the rookies we talked about so far in this video. But Auburn is sort of an up and down team a lot throughout the year. Will the rest of the team sort of gather around that? I have no idea. And again, a team that if you just, really focus on Jabari, gonna make it really hard for the rest of the team to do very successful. I think, again, Auburn, a team that could really go to as far as they want to. They could even win it all. Obviously, being ranked number one for a handful of weeks, they have the chance. But, will the rest of the guys sort of match the play of a number one overall projected pick like Jabari Smith? I don't know. But they're gonna be a very solid team nonetheless. So, yeah, Jabari Smith Jr., maybe my favorite player in the draft this year. So, yeah, those were some of like the top guys. That's a solid like 4 or 5 right there. Some other good ones. Obviously another Duke player, another freshman, AJ Griffin. He is definitely a guy who's very raw. I mean, this guy could come out and be, maybe like almost like a Sadiq Bey style of player, like a 3-and-D sort of slasher. I could really see that going for him. He only averaged 10 points, 4 rebounds, but on 46% shooting from 3. He definitely has that, again, potential. He's only 18 as well. Gonna be a project piece. There's another sort of guard wing player in Johnny Davis from Wisconsin. Another sort of slashing wing type of player. His player comparison, I've seen people have comparing him to like a Josh Hart, but not like, an early day Josh Hart. If you watch any Portland games recently, Josh Hart nowadays is like, a 15 to 20 point per game scorer. He's looking really good, really comfortable on the ball. Pretty much playing starting point guard for the Portland Trailblazers right now. Watch some Josh Hart's highlights of his last couple games. They can say that Johnny Davis could potentially reach that type of potential, which is pretty crazy. Not a great three-point shooter. They're only shooting 31% for a guard wing position. Definitely gonna need to improve that, especially going into the NBA. You gotta be able to shoot. If you're a wing player, you have to be able to shoot. Kind of struggles, but averaging 20 points is still pretty impressive without having sort of a great offensive game, well-rounded offensive game going in right now. Then we have projected to be the top point guard in the NBA draft in Ty Washington of Kentucky, which Kentucky has really solid guard play going to the NCAA tournament, averaging 13 points, 4 assists, 35% from 3. Almost like an all-around-ish style of point guard. And again, don't like Bleacher Report's sort of comparison. They compare him to Deangelo Russell, which I don't really like that comparison. Maybe, again, like a early sort of D'Lo, or maybe even Deangelo Russell now. Deangelo Russell, as we know, at Ohio State was maybe one of the best scorers in the country. I think he was, wasn't he? That's why he went so high going to the Lakers. Don't really see that comparison a whole lot, but as just an all-around style of guard, he's definitely the best all-around point guard in the draft for sure. This draft, as you can probably tell, a lot of big men, power forward, centers, even some wings. The point guard and sort of shooting guard position, pretty insignificant in this draft, definitely the point guard position. But yeah, that's basically everything for some talk. Obviously, there's a lot of other players we can talk about, but obviously we can talk about the best player on every team in the NCAA maybe talking a little bit of draft because, again, as of right now, the Rockets, the Magic, and Detroit are all tied for the number 1 overall pick, which, again, Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith, is going to be very different for a lot of these teams. I mean, if it stays how it is right now, I could definitely see Houston taking Chet Holmgren, obviously needing, well, actually, I don't know, because they have Woods, they have Sengun, however you pronounce that guy's name, and then you also have Chet. That's kind of a clog there, but then again, if you're the Rockets, you're just taking the best player available, which again, the highest ceiling is going to be Chet, so maybe you just take him no matter what. Then there's Orlando, if you want a power forward, you have Jonathan Isaac coming back, making his return, and then you have Wendell Carter Jr., who just extended on a big contract on. Do you really want to pick up a big guy like that? Or you pick up a guy like Jayden Ivey, but then again, you just drafted Suggs last year. It's going to be very confusing for a lot of these teams. Then you have OKC going 4th, projected that is, Indiana 5, Sacramento 6, Portland 7, which obviously really hoping Portland jumps. If Portland can jump in this draft to a top 3 and get someone like Jabari Smith Jr., which Blazers definitely are looking for a new starting power forward, man, again, like I said before, he's probably the most played now ready player. Obviously, Portland, a team looking to still try to build around Dame going into next season. You have a top 3 pick right there in Jabari Smith, which again, if you want to trade Dame, you still have a great player you can sort of help this sort of rebuild with, or a player you can plug and play right now, kind of like with the Warriors, how they did with James Wiseman. I feel like Portland trying to play off what they did, having a player you can rebuild with or shut it all down with. A very good start there with Jabari Smith, so hopefully Portland can make that jump. But if not, again, Keegan Murray on Portland playing that forward position would be pretty fun to watch as well, only having a 32% chance of jumping to top 4. Then you have the Spurs, and then the Blazers at 9, and then the Pelicans own the Lakers pick, which, man, that's going to suck because the Lakers can't even get a good draft pick if they tank, which is very terrible, but the Pelicans own their pick. So yeah, pretty interesting. I really love this app, this website. It's called Tankathon. It's a really cool app. Make sure you guys check it out. And also what's really cool about this website is you can hit Sim Lottery, and when you press it, it will simulate the lottery and pretty much do what they do in the real life NBA and just, I guess, see what teams fall where. You can see where teams drop and whatnot. It's pretty fun to watch. Yeah, guys, that's basically it. Obviously, again, there are a lot of other really great players going into the draft that we can still talk about. Like Benedict Mathurin of Arizona. There's Jalen Duren of Memphis. I think a lot of these players are going to be very good, very key, very crucial. But again, I really want to stay a lot of that NBA draft talk for, again, a mock draft video. This is sort of like an NCAA, sort of like, oh, here are some top players, maybe a little bit of a sneak peek at a mock draft. I'm going to be talking about these guys a lot more in a video very soon. So yeah, definitely let me know, maybe your March Madness player of the year. I think that's an award that they give that out, maybe not. Mine's probably going to be Jabari. I think Jabari, no matter what, is going to have a good run. It's just, again, what the others of Auburn do. I think he's going to be my player of the year. Again, Jayden Ivey has that potential as well, but definitely let me know your player of the year down in the comments. Give this video a like if you did like the video, and also make sure to subscribe to the channel. Yeah, March Madness, super excited. Hopefully I see you again in my next video very, 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 very soon. I love